So what does it really take to create something new? A new country, a new law, a whole new way of life? It's one of the toughest questions in all of political history. And today, we're going to tackle it through the eyes of a guy who, let's be honest, understood power better than almost anyone, Niccolo Machiavelli. All right, so to get into this, we're not going to start with a prince or a king. Nope. We're starting with a preacher. We're in 15th century Florence, and there's this guy who, for a little while, had the entire city in the palm of his hand. And his only weapon? His words. And here he is, Girolamo Savonarola. He was a Dominican friar, but his sermons, man, they were so powerful, so convincing, that he basically became the ruler of Florence. He's the guy behind the famous Bonfire of the Vanities. I mean, think about it. He got people to willingly burn their own expensive stuff, art, mirrors, fancy clothes, all in this big wave of moral reform. But it all ended in total disaster. I mean, absolute catastrophe. The very same people who treated him like a prophet, they turned on him. So you gotta ask, how does that even happen? How does a leader with that much moral sway just crash and burn so spectacularly? Well, watching this whole thing go down was a young official in Florence named, you guessed it, Machiavelli. He saw the incredible rise and the just as incredible, brutal fall. And from that, he pulled a lesson. A really cold, hard conclusion that became like a central pillar of his whole way of thinking about politics. So for Machiavelli, it all boiled down to something pretty simple. He basically saw two types of people trying to change the world, two types of founders. You had the armed prophets and the unarmed prophets. On one side, you've got your heavy hitters, Moses, Cyrus, Romulus, guys who backed up their big ideas with force, with swords. And then on the other side, you've got Savonarola, the man who only had his words. And right there, that's his big takeaway. For Machiavelli, at the end of the day, good ideas, moral authority, even having the people on your side, it's all just talk. When push comes to shove, words just aren't enough. You have to be able to make people follow you. And to do that, well, you need force. Okay, so if force is a must-have, what else is there? What really separates the winners from the guys like Savonarola who end up failing? Well, Machiavelli says it all comes down to this kind of magical collision of two key things. First up, a leader needs what Machiavelli called fortuna. You can think of it as just luck or opportunity. It's about being in the right place at the right time, usually during some kind of crisis. Like Moses finds his people enslaved. Cyrus finds the Persians totally fed up with their leaders. That chaos, that suffering, that's what opens the door for someone new. But, and this is a huge but, opportunity is completely useless without the second piece of the puzzle, virtue. Now, it's super important to get this right. This is not virtue, like being a good person. For Machiavelli, virtue is more like skill, guts, genius. It's this killer combo of having a clear vision, being able to make a tough call without hesitating, and just having that raw force of will to bend the world to your vision. And here's the key takeaway. Neither one is enough by itself. You could be the most talented leader in the world, all virtue, but if you don't get that lucky break, that fortuna, you'll go nowhere. And on the flip side, a golden opportunity means nothing if there's no one around with the virtue to actually grab it. Real history-making change, that happens when those two things slam into each other. Yeah, and virtue isn't just one thing. It's the whole package. It's having the vision to see what others can't, the decisiveness to act on it, like right now, the muscle, the arms to back up your play, and finally, the sheer endurance to stick it out when things get tough, because believe me, the backlash is always coming. All right, let's get into what is probably Machiavelli's most scandalous example. The one guy who he says had it all. And let me tell you, this example really freaked people out back in the 16th century. So take a look at this list. I mean, this is what's so wild. Machiavelli puts Moses, yes, that Moses from the Bible, right next to pagan founders like Cyrus of Persia and Romulus of Rome. He's not treating Moses like some special holy figure. Nope. He's analyzing him just like any other political leader, playing by the same ruthless rules. Now, Machiavelli does throw in this one little sentence, kind of giving a nod to Moses' connection with God. But if you read it closely, it's so carefully worded, it feels like he's just tipping his cap to the church before he gets to his real point, you know?
And that leaves us with a huge question, right? Is Machiavelli being genuinely respectful here? Or is this a clever way to say, hey, even God's chosen prophet had to play the game, just like everyone else? That having a divine mission didn't mean he could skip the part where you need armed force to make people listen. That he wasn't exempt from the brutal math of politics.
So, where does this all lead? Well, it all builds up to Machiavelli's final and, frankly, pretty grim warning for anyone out there who thinks they can change the world. He says it flat out. Trying to build a new order is the single most difficult, most dangerous thing you can do in politics, period. And why is that? Because the game is rigged against the person trying to change things. And here's why. It comes down to what he calls an asymmetry. Think about it. Your enemies, the people who love the old way of doing things, they're going to fight you tooth and nail. They have everything to lose. But your friends, the people who might benefit from your new idea, well, they're kind of timid. They're not organized. They're lukewarm at best because they haven't seen the payoff yet. So the big question is, how do you survive that initial phase? You know, that incredibly dangerous period where you have to hold on long enough for your timid supporters to actually see the benefits and become real believers. For Machiavelli, the answer is brutally simple. Force. Force is the tool you use to make people believe, when just talking isn't going to cut it. And so this leaves us with Machiavelli's really uncomfortable question, one that still hangs in the air today. In a world filled with passionate reformers and huge, powerful institutions, is a good idea ever really enough to change things? Is a powerful moral vision enough on its own? Or does every lasting change, deep down, rely on the one thing the unarmed prophet will never have,